Okay, so let's dive into these notes you've got. Honesty, genuineness, kindness. You've been like really wrestling with these lately, huh?
It's funny how those come up right, because on the surface, they sound so simple.
Right. Like everyone's for honesty, obviously. But
And
then,
it's not always that simple, is it?
exactly. And your definitions are interesting here. So, honesty for you, it seems like cut to the chase, no BS.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Like, just tell me the truth, even if it hurts.
Whereas genuineness, that feels more like this is Emmy, take it or leave it.
Yeah, more about being authentic, even if it's not always sunshine and roses.
And then kindness swoops in and throws a wrench in everything.
Because are we really being kind if we're just making people feel good, but maybe not helping them grow? It's tricky. So tricky. Okay, so you have this outfit example in your notes, and I think it's perfect for this. Tell me about that.
It's such a classic, though.
Hmm.
Your close friend is excited about an outfit. Maybe it's for something big and they want your opinion. But you're like, I don't know.
You don't love it, to put it mildly.
Yeah. And then it's that moment where you have to decide, right, do I spare their feelings or potentially save them from like fashion regret later?
Brutal. Okay, so walk me through these approaches you've got in your notes, because they're fascinating. So let's start with straight up honesty. Just like rip the Band-Aid off.
So part of you is like, just be real, rip it off. But the thing is, honesty without any tact to it,
It's just mean.
yeah, it's brutal. And nobody wants to be friends with a person who's always like that. Right. So how do you do honesty well? Is there like an art to it?
I think there is. It's about being truthful in a way that's actually helpful, not hurtful.
Instead of just making them feel like they've been, hit by a truck.
Exactly. Okay, so if pure honesty can be a bit much, what about genuineness? Like, is that the answer?
Is that our magic solution?
Maybe. But it's got its own, like, landmines. You could say something like, well, that's definitely a unique piece. But hey, if you love it, go for it. You're being real about your taste.
Right, but also.
But it might come across as, I don't really care, even if that's not how you mean it.
So you're being genuine, but also maybe a bad friend.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Right. It's that fine line again. And what I find really interesting is you pointed this out in your notes too. It's not just about us, right? Like
Right.
how we're approaching honesty or whatever. The other person plays a huge role.
Oh, 100%. It's a two-way street.
Exactly. And that's what I love about your outfit example. It's not just about how you'd respond if someone's like, what do you think? It makes you think about the flip side too.
Like, how do I handle it when I'm the one asking for an opinion?
Yes. It's like, how are you setting them up to give you the kind of honesty you actually want?
Ooh, okay. So you're saying, like, instead of just a general thoughts, I need to be way more specific.
Right. Think about it. If you really want to know if something's off, maybe you say, I'm kind of iffy about how this top fits, tell me straight up. You're basically giving them permission to be real with you.
Which probably takes guts on both sides, honestly.
For sure, but that's real honesty, right? It's vulnerable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about if someone's not, like, spelling it out that they want honesty? Is kindness just the safest bet then?
I think in most casual situations, yeah. Like your coworker shows off a new haircut, they probably want to, looks great, not like a whole analysis of what went wrong.
Right, right. Although even if someone does ask directly for honesty, your notes talk about how it's still a two-way street. It's
Yeah.
like you can't be all, give it to me straight, and then get all bent out of shape when they do.
It's that phrase, beggars can't be choosers. Love that one. If you're asking for a favor, which honest feedback IS a favor, you got to be ready for how it lands.
So be respectful, basically. They're putting themselves out there.
Totally. And it's not just clothes, right? Think about any time you're asking for feedback at work, in a relationship, the clearer you are about what you need, the better the other person can show up for you.
Communication is key, as always. Okay, so we've covered a lot T here, but there's one thing we haven't even touched on. What about unsolicited advice?
Ooh, yeah. A whole other can of worms, right?
It's that thing where you see someone like about to leave the house and something awful, and you're like, do I say something that? But it's bigger than that, right? It's not always about clothes.
No, not at all. It's everything, really. Relationships, jobs, all that stuff. Way higher stakes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why most of us just like keep our mouths shut. Sure, better safe than sorry. But you were saying before how that can almost be unkind in itself. So how do we like find that balance? It's tough. Because unsolicited advice,
Yeah.
almost never about the advice itself, is it? It's all about the context,
Mm-hmm.
And you really nailed that in your notes. Even if we mean well, butting in with advice nobody asked for,
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of rude. It's like we're saying they aren't smart enough to figure it out on their own, which never a good look.
Nope. Takes away their power, really. And you made another good point, too, which is even if you're right, even if your advice would totally help them, if they're not ready to hear it, doesn't matter.
So is it ever okay then, giving advice someone didn't ask for? Or are we just supposed to, like, watch people crash and burn? Because that feels wrong, too.
I think it comes down to, before you open your mouth, ask yourself some questions, you know? And you actually put this really well in your notes. It's like a checklist almost. One, have I earned the right to weigh in on this based on, like, my relationship with this person?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Two, am I doing this for them or because it makes me feel good to give advice? Be honest.
Oh, man, so many times it's that second one, isn't it?
Right. And three, and this is key, I think, can I say this in a way that's not telling them what to do, but just, showing I care?
Those are so good. Because, yeah, we can trick ourselves into thinking we're being all helpful, but really we just want to feel smart or whatever.
Totally. The more aware we are of WHY we're giving advice, the better we can do it, you know?
So, bottom line, if we're really torn about whether to say something, how do we actually move forward without ruining the friendship or whatever?
Consent. It's all about consent. You had it right there in your notes.
Wait, like asking if they want my advice
Yeah.
before I give it.
Exactly. Instead of just launching into it, start by asking, like, hey, I've got some thoughts on that, but only if you're interested. You give them the control, show them some respect.
It's saying, my advice isn't a given, it's a gift. And you can say no.
Exactly. And whether they say yes or no, you've shown up in a way that actually builds the relationship, right? Which, honestly, sometimes more important than the advice itself.
This whole deep dive has been amazing, honestly. So much to think about with honesty and all that.
It's a journey, isn't it? Not a destination.
Well said. And for everyone listening, we hope you've gotten a lot out of this too. It's all about those connections, right? Until next time, keep thinking, keep exploring, keep being real with yourselves and each other.